Welcome to the Restless Creatives podcast. Comfortable chats with inspirational creatives. Hosted by three self-confessed restless creatives, Lucy Hunter, Fiona Pickles and Bridget Girling. This week we had the pleasure of chatting with Clare Coulson. She's now a freelance journalist specialising in gardening, but she has a background in fashion journalism, working for publications like Harper's Bazaar and the Telegraph. She also has the most beautiful garden of her own by the coast in Suffolk.
Hi!
Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm not used to being in headphones.
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
It's
it really
weird.
cramps my ears.
It does mean, though, you haven't got to worry about your hair, which is fabulous.
Yes,
I'm going to do
it's
that.
an absolute bonus.
Claire, I don't know where everybody's on the screen for you, but you've got, as what I can see is Fiona below you. She might not be below you.
Yeah.
And Lucy's up there for me, but she might be somewhere else entirely for you.
No, she's underneath you. Hi, hello.
Hi.
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 How are you?
I'm fine.
Oh, I'm not sure.
A bit frazzled. I was trying to do breathing before because I just thought I'll really not do this now when I'm talking to you, but just calm down before. But it obviously hasn't worked. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm really looking forward to Monday and school's reopening and just having my work life back. Really nice.
You've got two children, haven't you?
Yeah.
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 And how old are they?
How old?
They are 8 and 11.
Oh gosh, and yeah.
Yeah, so it's been quite full on, and it's just kind of coincided with the most intense work period ever. So it's just crazy, you know. Anyway, hi.
Yeah. Let's not worry about homeschooling anymore.
Exactly. Well, I did a course. Well, it wasn't a course, but I attended this workshop thing the other day, and they really talk about talking to the black dot. Do you do this when you're doing a podcast?
No.
How you have to look at, but I can't do it. So I'm now just going to look at you.
When I do the editing, when I look back at it, I see everybody's eyes going all over the place, and I just think, but kind of the whole point is that we're engaging with somebody. This is a way to engage, and I'm not going to look at a black dot. That's going to be weird.
Where's the
slightly
black
imperfect podcast?
Is
it an imaginary?
Don't worry about the black dot, Lucy.
I can't see the black dot.
No, ignore the black dot. Just think I shouldn't have said anything about the black dot.
Exactly.
We're all now looking for a black dot and can't see one.
Anyway, we're so pleased you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
not sure. I've kind of seen all your illustrious guests, and I'm not sure that I'm really going to have very much of interest to say.
That absolutely
you
isn't
are.
true.
Okay, well, I'm very honoured.
Well,
very
for a
honoured.
start, I'm very honoured because you're a Suffolk girl like me, which is fabulous. Bigging up the Suffolk girls.
So do you live near each other then?
Well, we're the other side of the county from each other, aren't we?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we
quite a
are.
big
We're
county.
probably an hour, or a good hour,
Yeah.
actually, away from each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're on the best side in some ways because you're by the sea.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, I do. I love it around here. We're about 12 minutes from Aldborough, and it's just, it's heaven. Especially at this time of year, it's just amazing.
See, we feel we're too far away to actually travel to the sea right now. The guilt.
How far are you from the sea then?
Well, it would take about an hour to get there. So it feels like agony.
You are too far away.
So you have to. Say it's for your mental health. You have to go.
I might have
Not
to
long
That or I'll
now.
kill someone.
Anyway, Claire, why don't you tell us about who you are and what you do? Because you're actually quite multifaceted, aren't you?
Oh, I'm really multifaceted, which increasingly is just such an error. I think I've diversified too much. So I used to be a fashion untypical. My dog is now going to go crazy and run outside.
We
anyway.
like dogs going
It's
crazy.
okay.
I'm ignoring her. So I was a fashion editor. I worked at Harper's Bazaar and the Daily Telegraph for quite a sort of big chunk of my career as a writer and for a bit as a stylist as well. And then sort of discovered gardens, moved back home to Suffolk about 6 years ago, and just thought, I don't want to write about fashion anymore, and I actually just want to write about gardens. But obviously was still quite an amateur, still am an amateur. So really what I've done over the last 6 years is just completely pivot my writing career, and in really baby steps actually. And so now I write about gardens for magazines and newspapers, and because I did a book on flowers with Phaidon, I tend to do a lot of flowery stuff. That was never particularly my intention, although I love doing that as well. And then I'm also a lecturer, so I teach journalism at Central Spartans.
Okay.
So that's another kind of, and then just loads of other writing, loads of different types of writing. So I still do some fashion, but commercial, writing for brands and things like that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So how did you get into this? I mean, what led you down the route of going down fashion journalism in the first place?
I don't know really. I mean, it's such a cliche. This is now when I'm interviewing students, this is what they always say. I just loved magazines. I really did. I just grew up obsessed with magazines. I was always the kind of person really into English and art at school. So there was never any question in my, all through my kind of teenage years. I was always making something. And crafting and all that kind of stuff. So and I just really enjoyed writing, so it was always what I wanted to do. And then but then had a kind of couple of not lost years, but just sort of did a kind of couple of years traveling, and sort of worked in Italy, and I lived in Hong Kong for a bit, and
Nice.
And then ended up doing a degree and a master's in the history of art. And that actually was just, I mean, people talk about history of art like it's a really kind of wasted degree for skivers. But it was amazing. I mean, to go from that then into writing about fashion and design and interiors and all of that kind of stuff, it was a fantastic degree to have. And how I got into it was when I left university, I did a year, well, actually I had a 2-week internship at the Daily Telegraph on the fashion desk with Hilary Alexander, who was then fashion editor, and ended up staying for a year and just learn on the job.
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing. And just, newspapers are just the most exciting, incredible places to work. I mean, I did last autumn, I stood in for Joanna Fortnum, who's the gardening editor at the Telegraph, for a few weeks. And I hadn't really, although I worked for newspapers a lot, I hadn't actually done that kind of desk, actually putting through all the stories. And my God, I mean, it is intense, really intense and really fast. But, amazing adrenaline rush at the same time.
So would you like to do more of that, or was just a little episode just enough?
Ooh, I don't know. I sort of fantasized, because I've sort of had this really kind of busy London career, and then I always feel like I've sort of retired early. I mean, I haven't retired because I work non-stop, but I feel like I've come back to Suffolk and I'm almost in this kind of semi-retired mode. So I do think, I'm only in my 40s, I do think that I'd like to do another big job. Maybe, I don't know.
Possibly.
I don't know. But I love freelancing. I mean, it's just, I mean, this sounds like a cliche as well, but I honestly just feel so blessed the whole time that I get to write about gardens. I mean, what a joy. It's incredible, constantly meeting creative people, and I mean, what a privilege, it's just, I just feel really lucky. I love what I do. So I don't know.
I guess freelancing as well gives you a lot of freedom to pick and choose, whereas a job means you have to do the job, doesn't it?
Well, yes and no. I mean, the thing is, I don't know. I mean, you're all freelance in a way. You also work for yourselves. but you think that it gives you the freedom, but actually when you're working for yourself, I can't say no. I always feel that pressure of paying the mortgage and so really, I don't know, you're just in control of your time much more, I think. And if there's a beautiful day and I want to garden all day, I can go and do it, and on a newspaper that's not going to happen.
No.
Sounds like that you would really miss the high intensity. It sounds like you need that kind of pressure roll, that adrenaline rush that you would miss if you. I'm wondering, I'm getting the impression that you might like to have another big sort of, journalism job, really.
Yeah, but only I think through that sort of conditioning of, I'm really happy doing what I do, but I just think you're almost conditioned, aren't you, to kind of, get to all of these kind of steps. And, I was talking to a friend the other day who's in finance, nothing to do what I do. And, he was talking about a really big job. And he's a bit older than me, but in a really similar position. He's got a very nice life, sort of, working a bit, but not working all the time. But he's young enough really to do another big high pressure job. And so I don't know. It's really, it's hard to know. And I think it's when you're really happy doing what you're doing at the moment, it doesn't really push you to change anything, does it? When
Absolutely.
And there is that danger.
Creative, really.
Yes, exactly. Restless creative. Precisely. And there is
no rest.
There is that danger. You're happy doing something, but then you always do think, well, what else could I do? You can't. Trying to be happy with the moment instead of looking forward to the next thing is quite difficult, I think, sometimes. And I think you're right, Fiona. It's that restless creative nonsense that goes on in our heads, isn't it?
It's like, oh, what else can I do?
So we sort of skipped over when you were younger, but when you said you were always making things, did you mean you were making clothes yourself to wear, or were you making anything? Were you a sticker and gluer and a
everything?
Painting,
drawing? I just so it's weird having boys now, not that boys aren't creative, but having children that are boys and they're just completely about gaming and computers. And when I was their age, I was just always doing something. And I feel like I just went through loads of different phases. It would be, for a year, it would be painting. For a year, jack of all trades, master of none. For the next year, it would be making jewelry. For the next year, it would be clay, or just always, when I was in sixth form, I sort of started up this kind of micro business making, so it's so laughable, making these hats. I used to make hats myself because, yes, I would make all my clothes and stuff as well. And I started making these hats and ended up supplying this children's designer in Mayfair with these children's hats while I was in sixth form. It's just, I don't know.
Richard Branson, eat your heart out.
Exactly, yeah.
Not with the private jet, but I don't know. I was just always doing something. I was really into baking. I used to have when I was Luca's age, when I was about 11 or 12, I used to do stalls at car boot sales selling cakes and stuff.
Blimey.
Yeah. These days, I would be one of those kids on Junior Bake Off, really competitive.
That's so funny. Yeah. So I'd love to know, what kind of clothes are you making for yourself? Did you have your own individual style, or were you just trying to copy people who are out there, pop stars and actors?
I don't know, really. That was probably when I was sort of 15, 16 sort of onwards, and I was probably going through a bit of a sort of indie, the Smiths, Lloyd Cole kind of phase. And we all wore, everything. It makes me laugh with my students now when they're talking about, vintage being this new thing, because, we just constantly bought secondhand, adapted things. We'd go and buy, old, fusty old corduroy jackets and then I used to make loads of Liberty print things, Liberty print everything, trousers, skirts. So I don't know. And I have my grandma's, the Singer sewing machine with it's just obsessed, just always doing something.
Do you still make clothes now?
No, I don't do anything. This is the irony. Okay, I don't do anything creative now because it's just, I mean, you'd think my job is creative, but it's just work, and children, and you know.
But then you do something creative because your garden is beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, though. The pictures
it's not at the moment.
Well, no, is anybody's garden at the moment. Yeah. But the pictures you put on Instagram, you just think, I mean, I know I've threatened to do this on many occasions, but unfortunately, or fortunately for you, COVID has stopped me doing it, coming to see your garden, because it's just incredible. What was it like when you moved there? Was it an empty space?
Oh, it wasn't empty. So it was, there wasn't, the garden that I have now did not exist. That wasn't, you know, all of the borders, everything I've put in. But what I did inherit, which was great, was they'd put in hornbeam, and there's some beech at the kind of far end of the garden. They planted a couple of really beautiful cherries that I just absolutely love. You know, I mean, they're not any kind of particularly amazing cultivar, but you know, just to have a tree that somebody's planted sort of 25 years ago is just incredible, isn't it? So I sort of had those bones really. And then they were gardeners, and Amanda, who lived here before, she had some borders, but I ended up taking them all out. She had a couple. God, I hope she doesn't watch this.
She's moved a long way
France. She had 2 massive rose beds, which is where I now have my main borders, you know, all filled with David Austin roses. But, you know, they were quite old. And I spoke to David Austin, and they said, actually, you know, everybody some roses do go on forever and ever, but actually some of the modern cultivars get a bit tired. Yeah. So anyway, that's me making myself feel better. I ripped it all out and started again. And just did, I have a friend in London, Daisy, who's an incredible gardener. Actually, I think her garden's in House and Garden this month. I saw it on Instagram yesterday. And Daisy, so she was sort of one of my early influences, I think. And she said, I take on one big job each winter. So, you know, all of that digging out, making a new border, all of that kind of stuff. And that's really what I did. So, you know, I started off with a small border. The next year I did a big double border. The year after that I did another one. I've got a lot of space, so that's a kind of, you know, I can just go on and on and on.
How much space have you got then?
So it's 3 acres.
Ooh,
and there's
lovely.
And the garden is probably, I don't know, half an acre, 3/4 of an acre. But you know, it's just that thing of, yes, I can go on and on and on making them, which is my favorite thing. But I also have to go on and on, you know, doing the weeding and the maintenance and all of that. So it's just keeping that balance, actually, not getting ahead of myself.
So was gardening something you always had going on in your life?
No, not at all. I mean, I always loved flowers. And when I was in London in my first flat in Kennington, which I still miss, I would go to Petersham Nurseries, which had just opened, and I'd buy loads of plants for my balcony, and then I'd kill all of them within about, you know, I go and spend a fortune at Petersham Nurseries, and I just kill everything in about like 6 weeks. They're all dead. So I don't know. So it's funny when I talk now to young, you know, somebody who hasn't started gardening, and they say, I don't have green fingers, and I just think, well, I didn't. It's not until you understand plants that you can kind of grow well. So no, I loved it, but I definitely didn't know. I knew nothing. I mean, I was talking to Millie Proust this week, who, you know, Bridget, we probably all know.
Yeah.
What did you do? And she was sort of like saying, oh God, it's just awful. I don't know anything. I'm like, oh, come on, Millie. For God's sake, of course you do. So it's just that thing of like no formal training, but just learning, you know, putting it in the ground and seeing what works, and then quickly learning, actually, with my dry, sandy soil here, you know, it's very dry, very sandy. I can't grow phloxes. You know, the hydrangeas are always going to wilt, and just gradually kind of understanding what works, which is really then with the gravel garden, because that's probably the most recent bit of garden that I've done. The gravel garden just works amazingly because it's completely suited to, you know, to here, to what I have.
That I can't remember the name of the little pink flower that you had going through last year.
The dianthus.
Yes.
Carthusianorum.
That's the one. Now, does that self-sow? It does, doesn't it?
Oh, I mean, everywhere.
Could you put a little bit in a pot for me, please?
Yes. Oh my God, but Bridget, you should come over and just pull out the seedlings.
Okay, I'm coming.
No, totally.
And she does.
Don't tell Boris. But no, I can absolutely send you some seedlings because they have seeded. Because I love all of that winter structure. So I'm sure all of you do. So I kind of leave everything, but then by this time I'm cursing myself because obviously it's just, you know, it's
that everywhere. Real battle, isn't it? You kind of think in your head, well, it looks beautiful in the frost, and it's also a great place for the insects to hibernate and hide up through the winter. And I don't want to take away their safe spots. But then, as you say, you get to this point, you think, well, hold on, this is all kicking off now. Something's got to give. And then you discover it's going to be -5 tonight, and you're thinking those poor ladybirds, where are they going to go now?
Don't say that.
Is it really going to be -5?
According to the BBC. Well, it won't be for you. You'll by the sea.
Nothing for us in Yorkshire. We're used to it.
You see, we're just not.
You see, dianthus just would not work here at all.
Are you?
So Lucy, where are you?
So I'm North Wales.
Oh, okay. Oh my God, you've got the opposite, haven't you?
Yeah, complete opposite. So we're quite well drained because we're on the side of a mountain. So you know it also goes downhill, but it's just wet. It's not warm enough. So yeah, I'm very jealous.
We always want what we haven't got, though, don't we?
Exactly. Exactly. The grass is always greener, you know, but I don't stand a chance of growing, you know, any of those kind of beautiful woodland flowers or, you know, anything shady. Just doesn't, even in shady areas, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same. I've had a lot of deaths in the garden, let's just put it that way, because I'm ever hopeful. I still don't learn. I know
it is that sort of hope over experience or whatever.
Exactly.
It is, just think, I know it's going to die, but I'm just want it to happen.
Definitely work. It never does.
I must admit, we're quite lucky because we haven't really got that much that I can think of that we definitely can't grow, because we've got beautiful loamy soil. We're on a hillside like Lucy, but we've, you know, the sheltered areas, you know, shady things survive, and you know, we're quite lucky really. There isn't dry things survive and wet things, and we're very south facing. And
you're just showing off now.
Yeah,
I'm not. I haven't got that thing where it's like, oh yeah, I can't really grow those, and so that's quite a luxury, I suppose, really, because
expensive. No, the deaths are expensive.
No, I have deaths. Plenty of deaths.
Can't call yourself a gardener until you've killed quite a lot of stuff.
Oh well, I'm definitely a gardener then.
The amount of times you go somewhere, it's like, I used to have one of those.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that.
I haven't seen that for several years.
I'm very fascinated by your fireplace behind you. It looks beautiful. What's on it?
What you mean? What's on top of it?
Yeah.
It
and the pictures.
Well, that's by my friend Tanya Ling. She's amazing. And then I picked some, or I went and cut some blossom, some blackthorn, and
I wondered if it was blackthorn.
Some quince and some early viburnum foliage last weekend, and then I ordered narcissi for myself this week. So that's what's on there. That's my treat.
Looks smelling good.
Thank you. Oh, it smells amazing. Completely the smell of spring, isn't it? It's just so gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's definitely happening out there. It is, even though that it's pretty grim right now, it is definitely happening, and it's such an exciting time of year, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's really optimistic, isn't it? It's like, you can feel it happening.
Would you say?
Do you think?
I was going to say, would you say that spring is an optimum time in journalism for gardening? It must be. Or is that a bit of a general?
I don't know, because when you're a journalist, you have to work non-stop. You know, you have to work year round. So it's not that sort of, it's not really the same as, you know, having your kind of busy time of the year. I mean, what I will say is that everybody has gone completely crazy for gardens. And I mean, the pieces that I'm doing at the moment, you know, for people that I never normally write for, actually, you know, magazines and supplements that would never really run garden stories. So I think there's been a huge shift in the last year. And just people are just so much more interested, aren't they?
Yeah.
But of course, you know, I mean, there's been a homes boom as well. I think it's homes, gardens, and people just really wanting to make the most of
what
their
they're
spaces.
all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Or have been. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think even though we sort of feel like we're going to be released, there's still a little bit of a, you know, reservation about
it really?
Yeah, exactly.
I know. I've ordered vegetable seeds for the first time this year. It's just something I'd never really grown, but it's like, I'm going to try it. I think there may be deaths.
Competition for space, isn't there? You know, you want the flowers. Have you got space for the veg as well?
And also, I just think veg is so much more high maintenance than flowers. I never have any luck with, you know, almost anything edible, unless it's something that looks after itself, you know, like fruit bushes, or I just seem to kill off anything.
Yeah, my gooseberry bushes seem to work quite well. Gooseberries, I'd recommend those.
Oh yeah.
They don't need any work at all.
But so I had like 2 lists when I was ordering. I had things to eat and things that look nice. So I got a nice black tomato that I'll be using in my designs, and a red tomato that we'll be eating.
And you know which one will die, don't you?
Yeah. The black one will be tended and thrive, and the red one will just be like.
Where do you get your seeds from, Fiona?
First time I've ordered veg, so these are from Plants of Distinction, but a lot of my flowers come from Chilton's. I mean, I do use quite a few others, but where do you use?
Yeah, Chilton a lot. I mean, got that magazine that Chilton Seeds sent out.
I know.
Yeah, my God.
Fatal.
I mean, that is my like, oh, you know, I think I even spent like days just going through it. I was always hysterical when it arrived. So yeah, Chilton quite a lot, and Plant World Seeds, and Cedarholic.
Oh, okay.
Occasionally.
I'm just going to write that one down.
Yeah.
I feel like I know the name, but I've obviously not looked at it this year. I know, it's terrible, isn't it, seeds? I spend a lot of money on seeds, and they tend to sit in their packets and make me feel very, very guilty. Because
I banned myself last year. I didn't buy one seed last year because I had so many left over. It's like, you can't buy any more when you've got so many left over. And unfortunately, that meant this year I went a little bit crazy.
It's just impossible, though, isn't it, to resist? I just find it complete. You know, looking at all those pictures, beautiful, I just find it completely. This is why I never go shopping, because all of my attention is just focused on what I can grow. You know.
So have you ever featured your own garden?
No.
And now you know what I'm going to ask you, don't you?
Go
Why? Because I've seen your pictures.
Known that. Well, I guess I always, because a few people have asked, I think, you know, and I'm sure all of you get this as well, you know, if you're posting your garden, quite a lot of people ask if they can come and shoot it. But I just feel like it's such a work in progress. And, you know, even the kind of never happy with it. That's the bottom line. I'm never actually happy with it. So each summer I think, oh God, I've forgotten to do that again. And last year, actually, it was going to be shot. And honestly, I worked myself up into such a frenzy, like a kind of hysteria. and was just so sort of anxious about it. And in the end, it didn't happen for various reasons, probably because of my hysteria. I do. No, I mean, it would be really lovely to sort of have it featured somewhere, but I just need to get to the point where I'm happy with it.
I just wondered whether you felt it was your own private space and you weren't.
No, God, no, I'm not sort of. No, I'm really happy for people to, come. And I mean, the thing is, especially in the last year, it's such a joy, and that's one of the amazing things about Instagram. It's so lovely to share it because nobody ever comes here. In the last year, nobody really has seen it. So it's really nice to share it with people, isn't it? And to kind of post pictures and all of that stuff. But the other complicated thing here is that for the last sort of 6 years, I've been planning to extend the house. So there's a whole kind of really ugly section. The garden's kind of over there, and then my house is up here. And there's a really kind of ugly section in the middle that's never been touched. So that's probably why, because I sort of feel like you post all those like amazing, like golden hour images of your garden. Everyone's like, wow, it's fantastic. And then you're just thinking, oh, actually the reality.
You haven't seen all that. Yeah.
Exactly. You haven't seen the kind of the other bits.
But maybe that's the truth.
You can work with.
Yes, that's right. Get the photographer to do the right pictures.
But
I'm just thinking maybe that is the truth, though, because I would say most people's gardens are like that. Unless you have, one of those changing room style things that happen overnight when you're not at home and you come back and it's all done for you. Everybody's garden is always a work in progress. And I think, actually, I don't know that I've ever spoken to a gardener who doesn't apologise for the garden as they're showing you around. And you're thinking, but it's beautiful and it looks so incredible. And oh my goodness, what's this plant here? But that's not what the gardener sees. The gardener sees all the mistakes, all the holes, all the mess, the bit you've tried to stuff behind a shrub that you hope nobody would see. And, I think that's a truth that actually we don't see very often in the media. Everything always looks very slick and polished and almost unattainable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the joy of those, although they're polished and amazing as well, but those little gardens at Chelsea, when they started doing those artisan gardens, and it was just so lovely to sort of see something that you felt, a normal person could have kind of recreate, rather than, and especially, I think that whole culture has really shifted in the last sort of year or two, of somehow now those big show gardens actually feel a bit wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it'd be so interesting next year with Chelsea moving to September to see how it's different. But even just with that whole, with all of the kind of sustainability, the drive for sustainability now, I think it will be really, sorry, I don't know how I've got onto this, I'm sure I'm not answering the question. It'll be really interesting to see how it changes, because I think it really needs to. I don't know, I'm obsessed with sustainability in gardens at the moment. I just, if I go somewhere where there's loads of chemicals, I just find it like really just unbelievable that there are still, and I used to absolutely be out there with chemicals, 5 years ago, I would have thought that was fine. And now I just sort of can't believe that anybody hasn't sort of got the memo that it's, it's not okay. Anyway, I'm digressing.
Well, I was going to say, do you sense that there is a movement towards that within the RHS itself? I mean, have you?
I don't. Well, definitely. That? I think I don't have to notice it. I think there's a lot of talk about it, isn't there? And I think there's a lot of drive. I mean, the thing about, I don't know whether you heard all those stories towards the end of last year about the soil, about Monty saying, I think Monty had written in a column about people should only be using peat-free compost. And I mean, I remember, oh my God, I mean, the comments about him from, people in the kind of horticulture business. And I just think, I remember even like a couple of years ago going to local nurseries and, not really understanding why they would still be selling compost that had peat, or even going to my very lovely local nursery and seeing Oasis for sale and floral foam. And I just think, why are people not joining those dots?
Yeah. I think it takes a while, doesn't it? You always have the sort of, what's that terrible phrase? Early adopters.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think you have the early adopters that take all of the flack, and then slowly the mindset does shift, and that becomes more mainstream and acceptable. I mean, we certainly have that with the floral foam thing. None of us use it. We've maybe Lucy never has used it, but we've certainly used it before, Fiona and I, because of just the way our careers were. But you know, there's definitely antagonism towards the sort of the pushing the suggestion that you shouldn't be using it, and you can understand why. People's livelihoods depend on them doing what they do and the way they do it, and the way they see that it speeds things up. That seems to be the thing. It makes it easy and speedy. But it's interesting that if as long as you're not banging the drum too hard in people's faces, slowly people go, okay, well, I can't do everything, but I'll do a bit. And you just end up thinking doing a bit is better than doing nothing. And I think that's what I always feel. And I feel like that about with gardens as well. You know, my mum, who's an amazing gardener and, you know, is the most wildlife obsessed person. She'll say to me, yeah, but Bridge, sometimes I do just have to use a little bit of, I don't know what she calls it because I don't even
Roundup.
know. Yeah, something like that. On my front, and she'll look at me and you can tell that she's thinking, I know I shouldn't have said that to you, but I feel like I have to confess it. and I've kind of given up saying, but why, Mum? Why are you doing it? You know, it's her age, that's what she's always done as well. And everything else she does is so working with nature. You just think, why are you still doing this? But so many people do, and it just takes time. But I think you're right. Talking about it and suggesting it and offering solutions is really all you can do to slowly bring people with you. It's difficult.
I mean, it's interesting when you see all those kind of antagonistic conversations on Instagram, or, you know, if people kind of get narky because somebody says something about, you know, I don't know, roses in January or floral foam or whatever it is. But I just think, especially if you're in a position of influence, which, you know, a lot of you and florists or people like Shane Connolly really are, you know, I just think you have to just keep on. I mean, when I was doing that, so indiscreet, I shouldn't really say things, but anyway, when I was doing the
we like Claire.
No, it's not that exciting, but when I was covering at the Telegraph last September for Joanna, there was, so as well as writing, you know, I'm putting through other people's pieces, and there was like a column that was going through, and she'd mentioned kind of chemicals, and I said to my editor, wow, we really shouldn't be promoting this. There are other things that you can do instead of using this chemical. And I had such a sort of you know, ethical dilemma, because he was like, well, it's her copy, you've got to put it through. And I was just thinking, but no, we're in a position, you know, I mean, I don't know how many readers, it's probably like, you know, 1 million readers or something. And we should not be promoting this. You know, you can make a real difference by saying, don't use this, you know, get some ladybirds in to eat the aphids, or, do you know what I mean? Just do something better. So I just think everybody sort of has a duty, as with everything, just to keep
and leading by example. Yeah, absolutely. Your extra bits that you haven't cultivated yet, are you rewilding those? I know you're interested in that too.
No, I mean, yeah, I am. And I mean, well, I've now got horses, friends' horses on my field. You know, I had such grandiose ideas when I moved to, you know, wildflower meadows and all these kind of different things that I was going to do. But it's just time, you know, it's just, but I definitely, I mean, talking about the rewilding, I mean, since all of that has also emerged, and since reading Isabella Tree and sort of being more educated about it, and the amazing Wild East and, you know, all of that kind of stuff, I'm, you know, before I would have been a bit of a neat freak. And if there was like a corner in the field that was, you know, 5 meters deep in brambles, I'd think, rip it out, let's get a digger, let's get all of that neat and tidy, you know, and like I was really like obsessed. It's like a few years ago.
And now you're thinking the jays can plant their acorns in there.
No, exactly. but no, I mean, it is that. I now think, no, this is an amazing habitat, and those brambles are feeding the birds over the winter, and all the birds can be in there with all their nests, and and all of that, and leaving nettles, and I mean and you can see it, can't you? Like the wildlife in the summer, the butterflies. I saw a butterfly at the weekend. Just so exciting seeing all the first like bumblebees and butterflies and everything. And I honestly think that is leaving big, and I know it's harder in a smaller garden to do this, but when you've got space, you can actually leave a massive patch of nettles around a corner and do all of those things, and it's just so beneficial for everything.
I think there's a lot to be said for messy gardening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Me too.
So you definitely need your garden in the magazine then, Claire.
Yeah.
With all the mess.
Show the behind bits.
Yeah, the real
If Claire
bits.
can do it, we can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's something in that though, isn't there? Because I think it's really intimidating for people who don't garden, and they see going back to your point, Bridget, like seeing all of those images of perfection and thinking that all of these people's gardens look so perfect the whole time, and of course they don't.
No. And it's fine, if you've got a team of 10 gardeners, well, of course you can keep it all neat and tidy and beautiful, but most people are doing it themselves, and they may have somebody who comes in one morning a week to mow the lawn and cut the hedge or whatever, but most people are doing it themselves, and so it's not perfect, and there's a lot of beauty in it not being perfect. The little gems that appear because it's not perfect is just as beautiful, well, in my eyes, much more beautiful than something super manicured.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I think it's very encouraging for people to see that real gardens have warts and all.
Yeah.
Nettles are a good thing.
I wouldn't have had a whole host of poppies growing up through our cobbled area if I'd been obsessed by weeding, because these poppies just seeded themselves everywhere, and it literally covered it's like a turning circle, and I was having to do like a 28-point turn to avoid all these poppies to get out, but they were so beautiful. It's just a mass of poppies, and you think, God blimey, if this had been weeded or rounded up or anything, they just wouldn't have been in existence. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, and they're like
they're
the really lyrical moments, aren't they? Like when something just appears somewhere. That's the kind of real magic, I think.
Absolutely.
So do you have any help at all in the garden, or is it all down to you?
Oh, so I have amazing heavenly Janina that comes.
Heavenly Janina.
Much. Oh my God, I love her. Honestly, she is literally like, oh, Janina. I think she lives over near you, Bridget.
Oh, does she?
Oh, don't tell her that.
Oh yeah, no, she's really busy, very, very busy.
Yeah, got no time.
So she did some gardening for my friend that sort of lives a couple of miles away, and it just became so overwhelming, the garden, as I started adding more and more areas. It just became, I just couldn't keep up with it. I can't even really keep up with it now, to call it Janina. So she comes sort of about a day a month. Yeah, probably a day a month. And sometimes it's less than that. Like she hasn't been now, I think she came in November. She hasn't been here since then. And then sometimes if I'm particularly sort of like panicky in the summer, like she might come more often than that. But she is in. It's hard to get time with her. She's definitely really in demand, and honestly, she is just the most amazing. She leaves, I'm just like, oh my God, look at it, it's incredible. She's one of those people, and I'm definitely not. I'm so messy out in the garden, but she turns up looking incredible, like she's walked off a film set. Like she'd have some amazing kind of like Japanese like straw hat or something, and like an Indian jacket. Honestly, she's incredible. She's absolutely incredible. I hope she also doesn't watch this. Really embarrassing. My friend a few months ago said, because I'd given her some like really like nice trousers or something, and he said, "Are you actually in love with Janina?"
But I like her to look nice in my garden.
But when you're so, I think because I'm so emotionally connected to the garden, and because it is literally like, the dog and the garden's like the centre of my world. Poor children. I think because she's the only person that actually comes and does something in the garden, it just, I don't know, just gives us, and she's just always so sweet. Like whenever she comes, she's just always like, oh, I love being in your garden. And she's so, whenever there's anything new, she's just so interested in the plants and, you know, taking away cuttings and seeds and stuff. So it's just, oh, it's such a joy. I mean, I dread the day, like if ever like anything happens that she can't come.
Do you struggle letting somebody else be involved in the garden?
No.
I think Claire and I are obviously cut from the same cloth.
Oh my God! Like any help? I'm like, yes. I mean, when my friend, I had some friends to stay last summer, like really the only people that I've seen this year over the past 12 months, and Ronnie is really into gardens.
He was at Phaidon, wasn't he?
Yeah, so he still is. Yeah, he's at Phaidon Nurseries. So, you know, every evening before dinner, he'd be out there like cutting stuff. And I mean, it's just, I mean, sort of going back to that idea of like sharing it with someone, I just think it's so nice when like-minded people come into your garden, no matter what they're doing, whether they're cutting or helping or, you know, it's just...
Drinking wine.
Yeah, exactly, drinking, eating. It's just a really nice, just that sharing thing again. It's just so nice to share it with people.
What would you say is your favourite garden you visited? Because you must have seen some beautiful ones.
I mean, that's really, I don't know. I love Kifsgate.
I haven't been
so
to
much.
Kifsgate.
Oh, Bridget, you would love it. And I think when I first went there, I went on a really like sizzling hot day, and it's incredible. Have you, Lucy, Fiona, have you been there?
No, Kifsgate. No, I haven't. No.
So it's, I mean, for a start, it's just got the most incredible setting. It's sort of like up on a plateau, and I can't remember the name of the sort of the area that it overlooks. It's next door to Hidcote. I mean, they were friends like, you know, 100 years ago, and so it's up on this amazing plateau, and then it's surrounded by these pines that were planted, you know, which must be 100 years ago when the garden was, or more than that. And when I first went, I went on this really hot day, and all of the pine trees were like, all of the pine cones were cracking, and it just felt like the most amazing experience being in that garden. And it's just like the most romantic, gorgeous planting. It's just delicious. And the house is like you know, like beautiful kind of Italian portico, and it's just everything I love, you know, beautiful Georgian architecture, really romantic planting.
So what time of year? June?
So I think I went in June, because the Kifsgate kind of crazy roads, which honestly is just like enormous. I mean, they have, you know, coach loads of people that just go, and they're literally, they walk out of the coach, they're like, where's the rose?
Don't want to see that, just want to see the rose.
Exactly.
It's near where we were going to stay. Remember when we were going to go and stay down in, is it Stow on the Wold or somewhere? I can't remember. It's next to some, and that was one of the places I was like, we can go there.
Yeah.
That was before we were all locked down and trapped.
So, right, June this year then.
Yeah.
Got a long list, girls.
We have got a long list.
What else is on your list?
Oh, Mallorca.
Yeah.
Amsterdam.
Yeah, nowhere else in this country. Just all abroad.
Or did you mean gardens?
Yeah. Sorry. I'm just going to go with it. It's fine.
No, doing this podcast, various places have cropped up that we've decided we do have to go and visit.
We've had several invites.
Yes, we have. But actually, gardens hasn't been top of the list, has it? But Kifsgate, I think that the way you've just described it, and actually, obviously, I've seen pictures and stuff on TV, and it does.
It was on a programme, was it last year, I think? And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, that just looks beautiful. I don't know if it was Gardener's World or something else, but yeah, it looked beautiful. Really
fabulous. And even, you know, even like the colours, the palettes in the borders and the combinations of plants, and it's just dreamy. It's really dreamy. But to be honest, I like going to any garden. I just really, and especially now, I mean, when that first lockdown lifted last spring, God, I mean, I think I was like the first person through the doors at Dickster. You know, I was literally, as soon as there were tickets, I was like, I'm booking a ticket. You know, I was just so desperate. And I think that's partly just being cooped up with children and being at home. But I love visiting anywhere. I love going to my local plant nursery. You know, I mean, that's just like.
Who do you go to?
So I go to the walled garden quite a lot in Benall, which is lovely, and they have a really nice selection of plants. You know, they have some interesting things, but I really, if we talked about Ladybird before, Bridget.
Yes, I love Ladybird.
So then I've got another nursery near me called Ladybird, which is much more, you know, for people just filling up containers and hanging baskets and all, you know, it's all of that kind of.
It's not as aesthetically pleasing as the other one.
No, it's not.
But the plants are amazing.
And also I just love them that. I mean, do you know what they were last year when everything, because when the first lockdown happened, garden nurseries weren't open, were they? No. Everything pretty much was closed. And it was March and everyone was like, how do I get the compost? You know, everybody was just obsessed with how they were going to get stuff. And that little nursery, honestly, I have to tell you, this is just like, I think they're incredible. So they took online orders or over the phone orders of all the plants, compost, anything you needed. And they had like, it's literally like a team of people on vans. I mean, it's only a little, it's a tiny local nursery. I think they had like 6 or 7 delivery people that worked around the clock. Gosh. I mean, even to get through on the phone to them was, you know, you couldn't actually. You had to email the order and then they would call you and confirm, and that was it. And oh my God, ever since then, I've just thought they were incredible because I think they sort of, you know, just being able to get on with your gardening was just
that entrepreneurial spirit as well, though, because what was the other option? Destroy all the plants, you know, to just go, no, we're not having this.
A lot of people didn't open, you know. Yeah. So I just think, and God, it's not like I'm guilt tripping business owners into opening, but I just thought it just felt like a public service almost. It felt so. So NHS. It just felt
Ladybird Nursery.
Yeah, exactly.
It just felt so sort of, I don't know, really kind of public spirited. Okay, I'm going overboard now and stop.
I think that's really interesting though, because when was it, March, the end of March that we were locked down, 23rd or something in my memory. We did have the nurseries and everything was just starting, you know, really to grow, and the whole nation suddenly had this focus. But this lockdown, you know, just because of the time of year, gosh, it's been hard. And I think it's been hard for a number of reasons. But, you know, I think not being able to really focus on these wonderful things that are growing and giving you hope, you know, just at that point, I found that really difficult.
I suppose it isn't any wonder that so many people did turn to their gardens, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, you know, it's what can I do? Now I've got this enforced time. Yeah. Good old Ladybird, keeping us all going. Right, Claire, we have some fun questions for you. We torture every guest with these, not the same ones, but we specially select them for our guests. Mix it up. I have some for you. So they're sort of quick fire. You can answer it quickly or you can embellish. It's entirely up to you.
Not quick fire. Okay.
Oh no, we like embellishments. Yeah. Right, the first one is usually quite hard and mean, and this one is. Although I'm sensing, based on our conversation so far, it's not going to be as mean as I thought it was going to be. Garden or fashion?
Oh, gardens. I mean,
I know.
Listening?
Why did I even write that at the top of the list? I should have scratched that one off the list. Yeah, not so hard after all. Where will be the first place you go when this is all over? And you can't say Dickster.
I don't know. I mean, do you know what? This is awful, but I don't know whether I will go anywhere. The only thing that I have seriously hankered for over the past kind of couple of months, because as Lucy was saying, I just think this winter's it just felt endless. And the only thing I'm absolutely yearning for is to go to Italy, because I go to Liguria a lot. which is probably the kind of road less travelled for the English. It's just, I absolutely love it, and I've got really good friends there. So that's where I would like to be going, but I don't think I would go anywhere this summer. I think everybody's going to get vaccinated and they're going to go crazy and think that everything's fine, and I just think it's such an error. So my answer actually is my own garden, but hopefully with friends in it.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, that's really my dream, is just to be able to have people over. You know, that's what I really miss. As for, you know, everybody.
Isn't it lovely though that actually, after all of this time, for so many people, it is that really simple answer that is the truth. That's the real heartfelt. That's what I actually really want. Yes, of course, we all have grand ideas of where we'd like to go and what we'd like to do, but so many people have answered in a similar way to you, actually. Yeah. Just something really quite truthful simple. And heartfelt. Yeah. We'll come and join you in your garden if you have us.
Well, you're coming anyway.
I know. I do
get your dianthus.
So, what's your favourite garden plant? If you had to pick one.
Oh my God, they're so hard.
That's quite nasty, hard. That one.
That should have been my first one, shouldn't it? I now realise.
A bit cruel.
Oh, that's really hard.
You're going to make our guests cry, Brit. Come on.
God. Okay. I can't choose one.
Oh.
I can't choose one. I'm gonna give you 3. Okay. Sorry. So I love roses, and I've got actually no, the Lark Ascending is my favourite rose. I just adore it. And completely different, Steepa Gigantea. I just it's so suited to my garden.
Yeah, it's beautiful in the garden.
So it just always, you know, in the time when I go and sit in the garden, you know, in the summer, like 7 o'clock outside, just watching the light through the Steepa Gigantea, honestly,
it's magical.
Makes my life complete. And then Salvia, Nacht, is it Vinda or Vlinda?
Oh, Nacht-Vlinda, yeah. I think
so I discovered that last year, and I am obsessed.
I don't know.
Oh my God.
What colour is it?
It's a very dark, very
like
dark.
A deep purpley type.
Like a really deep purple. And I am, in fact, I'll send you a picture, Bridget, because I had it with some, with an aster, a pale blue, I can't remember which aster. Oh my God, with pale blue, it's amazing. And I discovered that actually at Gravetie, because Tom had sort of planted it all up the banks at Gravetie. Actually, that's another garden that I just adore. Okay, sorry, that's really long-winded.
Long-winded quick fire. Okay, this is an interesting one. Book or movie?
What? Just that choice? Movie. But I have to name a movie, do I?
No. You can just leave it at movie if you like, but you are allowed to embellish.
I absolutely love films, and in my kind of like secret, I'd love to write a screenplay, and in my kind of secret career, you know, in my head, I will never have. I'd love to work in film. I really
never
would.
Say never.
No, it's honestly, Lucy, it's too late. But
rubbish, absolute rubbish.
No, I just, you know, that is my favorite thing, and that's. Although since moving out here, you know, I don't go. I used to love it in London, like especially when I was, you know, younger in London, going to the Curzon Soho, and you know, I used to see everything that came out. I just used to see so many films. Love films, and you know, that's sort of one of the things. Although we have a lovely cinema here, Albra Cinema, so I do go there, but it's not the same as that. London, a film's just come out, you know, and that excitement of seeing something new.
Yeah. Interesting. I just couldn't pitch which way you were going to go on that one. I think actually you surprised me.
I'm thinking about your screenplay.
Yeah,
now.
Me too.
I'm thinking about it has to be to do with gardens, obviously.
I know, I'm always thinking that. I mean, have you seen that Meryl Streep film with Alec Baldwin? It's Complicated.
Yes.
You've seen that? Oh my God. I mean, it's so funny. You have to watch it. But she has this beautiful just ridiculously picturesque vegetable garden. And I always think, if I do a film, obviously it's got to have like I've got to write it in this incredible garden.
Yeah. So and it's got to be Meryl Streep as well.
Right, last question. What's the most dangerous thing you've ever done?
Oh my God, this is so like Theresa May running through the wheat field. I mean, whatever you say is wrong. I don't know. I mean, do you know what? I'm so boring. I'm so bored. I think since having children, I'm really risk averse. And I don't know whether that is something to do with having children.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, I must not die. But my God, I used to do crazy things when I was younger. You know, like when I was 16, they had like this massive, it must have been centenary. It would have been in Paris, they had this massive Bastille celebration, and it must have been 200 years. So maybe I would have been 17 or 16 or something. And so I went with my friends, you know, like 16, we slept in like the metro, literally had nowhere to stay, just slept in the metro on the floor, like with all of these other, just completely peculiar. This isn't the answer you were expecting at all.
No, we're loving it.
And I just used to do loads of crazy things like that. You know, when I was living in Italy, I used to kind of drive to like completely different states to kind of, you know, go out all night clubbing. And so I think I've done a lot of quite dangerous things, maybe.
That's pretty impressive for a Suffolk girl.
Yeah, I just think it's that kind of, I don't know, craziness of youth. But, you know, I've never jumped out of an airplane or anything like that. I couldn't do anything properly terrifying,
Oh, God,
like skydiving or... Did you say you are, Fiona?
I have. I've jumped out when I'm at college. I jumped out of a plane, but it wasn't one of these where you had to jump out with somebody on your back. And I'm not exaggerating. It was a Cessna. You had to climb out of the window onto the wing, hold onto the crossbar, and then supposedly when they tell you, let go. Unfortunately, I got blown off. So you're doing this. I mean, it was just.
How did we not know this?
There's a lot you don't know about me, and you've already interviewed me once.
Yeah, we have. You successfully dodged this one, but now it's out.
You notice there's a pattern though, Bridge. It's all to do with planes.
Yes, it's definitely all to do with planes. I thought it was going to be when you were delivering.
No, it was a different one.
It was quite interesting. We did interview Fiona, and her. Let's just say her teenage years were a lot more rock and roll than mine. I blamed it on being a Suffolk girl, but you completely blew my cover.
You can't blame it on being from Suffolk.
Exactly, that was my thought, exactly.
That's the only excuse I had.
I've got no excuse at all.
Oh my goodness. So we're going to let you go in a minute because I know you're busy, but anything exciting in the pipeline that you can tell us about?
Oh, I'm so unprepared for all the questions.
You can say no if there isn't anything.
Yeah, or you don't want
to. Not really. I just want to build my house. I mean, that's the only thing. And today, so I remortgaged and completed today. Amazing. It's only taken me like 7 years to do this. Okay. So finally, the money is in my bank account. Shouldn't say that publicly either. And then the builder who was due to start in May said last night, "Oh, could I pop round in the morning?" So I was like, yeah, sure, thinking it was an exciting building kind of meeting. And he got here and he said, "Right, brace yourself. I can't do it until next year."
Oh no.
So, and then I sort of had to go straight into like work mode because I had like big meetings and stuff this morning. So I've just sort of spent all day just like cursing the builder, just being absolutely furious.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that's, I would have said finally having a proper kitchen and an extension. But no, I don't know what else in the pipeline. I don't know, I'm just doing loads of freelance gigs at the moment. Just lots of features which I'll bore you with on Instagram when they all come out. But nothing else really. No books or anything.
No films.
But busy.
No.
Happy and busy.
Yeah, happy and busy.
That's good.
Thank you so much though for spending time with us.
Not at all. Thank you to all of you.
Yeah.
Really nice to meet you too.
It's been great having you, and I hope you have a relaxing rest of the afternoon. This is
cursing
the builder.
Yeah, I'd be cursing too.
I know, that's a bit of a bombshell, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think he could feel feel the sort
The
of
anger.
Yeah, because I was trying to hold it together. It's like, right, just go now.
You're probably very glad for social distancing.
Yeah, I'm not making you that coffee. Well, thank you so much, and I'll be popping around soon for some.
Honestly,
seedlings.
or otherwise I'll post them to you. But there's so many seedlings.
Fabulous.
Okay.
Thanks
so much.
Thank you.
See you
Take
soon.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Restless Creatives podcast. To ensure you don't miss our next episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Restless Creatives podcast. If you'd prefer to listen rather than watch us, you can catch us on one of your favoured podcast providers. For more sneak peeks and behind-the-scenes fun, visit our Instagram at the.restlesscreatives or visit our website, therestlesscreatives.co.uk.